to today's video. And in today's video, I'll be discussing how one man could potentially single-handedly decide the Senate. Now, this is not certain that this will happen, but it is a very real possibility that this ends up happening and that the Senate is determined through this. I'm just going to go label my most recent prediction for the Senate and then discuss, I don't know if I had PA being tilt lean or tilt blue or lean blue. I'm just label it lean blue. But this is essentially how one man, spoiler alert, it's Chris Sununu, could determine the Senate. Now, some things would have to happen, but it's a very real possibility. So, looking at this, I had New Hampshire being likely red. And now, for this to be able to happen, a couple things would have to happen. Now, there are three lean blue states that would need to go red for this to happen, which are all definitely possible to go red. They are Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is one. Let's just go label out blue again. Georgia or Arizona. Now, we could see any of these three states really go red, but it would be very difficult. In Pennsylvania, the GOP, this is where I think that they would struggle probably the most, because Pennsylvania's suburbs are still red, so they would have to run a candidate that's strong in the suburbs and can win over enough suburban voters, but also has appeal to Trumpist voters. So that's why I think that they would struggle there. They wouldn't necessarily be able to get all that appeal. But in Georgia and Arizona, if they were to be able to run a moderate, traditional Republican, they could win in both those states by potentially lean margins. They could win Georgia by lean. They could win Arizona maybe by lean. I don't know about lean though. It really does depend on the candidates. But if the GOP manages to run a moderate, then this could be a very good sign for them. So let's just assume that they do manage to carry one of these states. I'm just going to label Pennsylvania because they do have an incumbent Republican there. I'll just label it lean because I just kind of like the look of the color. Or maybe likely. I like the look of both colors. I don't know. I'm just talking about colors now. Let's just label it, actually, how much did Toomey win by? Okay, that's the 2020 results. I go get 2016 results. Okay, I have 2016 results. Because Toomey won by 1.3, so let's just label it lean red. Okay, so let's just assume that somehow the GOP manages to win here because they have an incumbent, and let's say somehow something happens and the GOP is able to win there. They might be able to win in Georgia or Arizona. I'm just gonna give them Pennsylvania because they have an incumbent there, but that's essentially it. So they would have to be able to retain all of their seats. That's a given. Or they would have to be able, they would be able to lose Pennsylvania, but they would have to be able to flip Georgia or Arizona, or potentially Nevada. I highly doubt it'll happen though. And that leaves New Hampshire. If they win New Hampshire, they win. If the Democrats win New Hampshire, they win. So at this point, it all does come down to New Hampshire, and the reason that Sununu would effectively decide the Senate if he were to run is, if he doesn't run, it's a lean to likely blue state. It's I would say maybe lean, although there's still a good chance it goes likely. It's a 5 to 7% Democratic state. That's if Sununu doesn't run, though. If Sununu does run, he is insanely popular. He is very, very popular in the state. I have a video about the possibility of Chris Sununu running, which you guys can go check out. But Sununu essentially is just so overwhelmingly popular that he would probably win by over 5%. Now, that's essentially how the Senate could be decided by Sununu. Now, it's not necessarily certain. If the Democrats are able to carry PA, then it could happen. But there are many circumstances where, let's say the Democrats lose Georgia. Let's just give Georgia to the Republicans, and let's give them Pennsylvania. And let's say the Democrats manage to flip North Carolina. It comes down to Pennsylvania, or it comes down to New Hampshire, because this state, whether or not the thing is, it's not a toss-up if we know the candidates. If Sununu doesn't run, it's a likely blue state. If Sununu does run, it's a likely red state. So the real question in New Hampshire is not will Sununu win, it's will Sununu run. And if Sununu ends up running, it could decide the entire election because the Republicans, other than New Hampshire, would need to just flip one seat. Or actually, rather keep one seat. If they were able to keep Pennsylvania, then they would, then it would really all come down to whether or not Sununu runs. And Sununu could essentially decide how the entire Senate votes. Sununu could be essentially the Senate. He could be Joe Manchin for the GOP. Because we could still see that. Well, even if he were to not necessarily be like Joe Manchin, he could not only, like Joe Manchin, we know, decides whether or not something passes, at least in this current Senate. He and Kirsten Sinema can essentially make the decision about whether or not something passes. If they want something passed, or if they want something not to pass, they don't let it pass. But with Sununu, his decision on whether or not he's going to run might not necessarily determine if a bill passes, but it will definitely determine whether or not, or it could almost certainly determine whether or not the Republicans win. Now, Democrats could still do well, and if Sununu doesn't run, and let's say they carry New Hampshire, now they actually have a 51-49 majority. Now, this is an outright majority. As long as they're able to do well enough in the 2024 election. I'll actually go pull up a 2018 midterm Senate map. Give me a second. So, if we go look at this, for the Democrats to be able to win, they're probably not going to lose. Wisconsin, like Tammy Bowden won by over 11. Debbie Stabenow in Michigan won by over 7. Bob Casey won in Pennsylvania by over 13%. So they're probably not going to lose any of those seats. But right now, the GOP, they're not going to lose Montana, by the way. John Tester's still going to manage to win there. But right now, the GOP are doing very, very well. Also, same with Ohio. Sherrod Brown's not going to lose his seat there. But right now, if the GOP, if Sununu were to decide to not run, if we go back over here, Sununu were to say, let's decide not to run, the Democrats have a 51-49 majority, which means they, if, assuming that they win the presidency, which they're favored to, they won't certainly win the presidency, but let's assume that they do. Then they just need 50 seats. In that case, Joe Manchin, his seat, if he were to lose his seat, then the Democrats still have 50 seats. Now, we could see Democrats, honestly, by this point, winning the state of Texas. Ted Cruz is disliked. Democrats could do very, very well here. But let's just assume that the only flip is in West Virginia. Let's assume that West Virginia is the only state that flips. All of a sudden, it's a 50-50 Senate, and right now the path that the GOP is going, it's expected to be a Democratic victory. It's not certain, but it's expected. And considering the fact that the GOP will also be having to funnel lots of money into Texas and potentially Florida, Democrats could still do well in Florida. In some of these states, Democrats are doing very well here, but assuming that Republicans do flip West Virginia, which is not a given, it's definitely they're favored to win West Virginia, but it's not a given. Let's assume that they do. Now it's a 50-50 majority, assuming that Democrats lose in Texas and Florida, and the Republicans flip West Virginia. If Sununu doesn't run, though, or if Sununu does run, the Republicans head into it with 50 seats. Then, they win West Virginia, assuming that Democrats aren't able to carry Texas or Florida. The Republicans win the Senate. So, he could essentially determine the Senate in the 2022 midterms, he could determine what happens in the Senate until the 2028 midterms, or 2026 midterms, excuse me. And that's why that's why this race is so important, because his decision to run could change everything. And when it comes 2026, I have another Senate map. The Democrats would probably have, assuming that he does run, Republicans would have a 51-49 seat. Excuse me, I don't know why I said seat. 51-49 majority. Sorry, this is 2016 map, or 2016 map. Republicans would hold 51-49 majority. Now, looking at this map, and heading into this, Democrats need to flip one seat. Republicans just need to hang on to all their seats. Right now, Democrats aren't going to flip Maine. The best case is in Texas, where John Cornyn won by single digits, yes, but it was almost 10%. So this is why Sununu could essentially determine, because the Senate's going to probably be very competitive within 2 seats, for at least a large majority of this decade. And if Sununu were to decide to run, he could determine the Senate for a very, very long time. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I know it was short. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to try to get working more on the series, and I'm going to try to upload. I've scheduled it so it would work around, so it would probably start on June. I'm currently working on the first episode of the series. The first episode is going to be difficult, but I'll try to get it done quickly, and I'll try to get this series done quickly, so that it won't be going on too long, so it'll actually work. So I'm hoping to get that series out by June. So I'm once again hoping that'll be work out, and I'm sorry that this video was shorter than usual. But yeah, I hope you guys really liked it. If you guys did enjoy it, please leave a like. Stay tuned for my next video, and I will see you all there. Bye.